Con todos ustedes, Marc Villanueva, Thomas Duret. ¿Sí? ¿Te va bien?
Todo bien.
Sí. Ells volen parlar en anglès, ells van hablar en inglés. Voler. Bueno, Tomás hablará en inglés. Ça va pour toi?
Yeah.
Ok, super. Marc et moi, on va mixer. We wanted to try to combine the both languages.
You want to speak French?
And I can speak French. I have been speaking French now. I realized, so I come back to the English. We are tired. We must be funny because the people wants to go.
It's okay. I'm extremely funny.
Okay, super. So, comencem per ell, que és el que ha agafat una glove de fora. Okay, let's go, Thomas. It's your time.
To tell a joke? Or
As you want, you can.
I didn't prepare anything. I thought that just people would laugh at me.
You can be thinking if at the end you has a joke to tell to the others, you can share. But it's
I don't. I hate laughing. Actually, I hate humor.
Me too. But you know, I has been talking about the Excel.
Yeah,
it's not for a laughing.
So I have
it's
to
a cruel reality that is stronger.
It's okay.
It's okay? So
yeah.
We go?
So I talk about my stuff.
Of course.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so first, okay. I'm an artist. I've been working as an actor and a director for multidisciplinary work, and I'm also a curator since 2017. So I'm going to talk mostly about my work as a company here, because that's what I read from the description yesterday. So I was like, oh, okay, I need to talk about this. So the question was mostly to talk about how do I integrate game, we could say it like that, in my work. I actually don't see it that way, just because for me I hate naming what I do, which is always a burden when I have to apply for money, because they're like, what do you do? And I'm like, just let me show you, give me the money, I'll show you, okay? It's easier that way, and it never works. So I have to, start writing and say, I do that and that. So I started as a theater director, and after doing the theater school, I realized that for me, theater is too limiting. So I also worked in the dance field as a choreographer, and I also realized that it was too limiting to do one thing. So I started blending all the things together. And now that I know that I'm on the autistic spectrum, I realize why I hate boundaries. But it took me, 37 years to understand why I was not fitting or feeling I was fitting in anything. So I decided I would do my work in the most authentic way, which means just doing it and then looking after, okay, it's actually bit more theater, but sometimes it's mostly dance, and then okay. And when I was younger, one of my first love, and still to this day, is video games. I never integrated video games in my work just because I suck at computers. I'm good at playing, but I really hate coding. I don't understand anything about that, and I hate that. So I don't do technologies in my project, or sometimes I just put a video projector and then I say, okay, there's some technology, which is not at all the technology, but anyway. So I integrated game in a way that, as an audience, it happened a lot of time that as a spectator I was watching a show and I felt that the show could go on even if I was leaving the room. And at the same time, I also had the experience of people on stage asking me to participate as much as them, even if I was not being paid for that. And I didn't enjoy that either. So I tried to be more in between, because it's all about consent also. It's like, did I consent to watching something really boring that's never, checking if we are participating in this, which is the point of performing art, in my opinion. And at the same time, are we consenting to be, used as a material on stage? So there's always this kind of debate about this. So the projects I did, I don't know, yeah, maybe we can show a picture because sometimes talking is boring and listening is boring too. So that's one of my projects. We did it only once because it's really hard to just present it in other places. It's actually a dance piece, but it's constructed as a theater show where nobody talk, and there's only one rule, is that there are some plastic bags that fall from the ceiling for no reason. At first there's only one, and there's one person on stage, that guy here. And he just grabs it, and then he starts, throwing it in the air, watching it, moves. And then he grabs it, he catches it before it touched the ground. And from this, there's kind of a game of, okay, I'm going to throw it again in the air. But the rule, the untold rule, is that it can never touch the ground. So for 45 minutes, there's another second and third and a fourth performer that arrives on stage because there's more plastic bags falling down from the ceiling. And from this, we built a choreography, which was the point of talking about how collaboration and competition are the two sides of a same coin. And that to destroy competition, we have to work from a collaboration side. Like both cannot coexist. It's either one or the other, in my opinion. So it was a work about this, and it was really envisioned as like the game was really, childish, playful, and at the same time really, really demanding for the actors, for the performers, because they were all coming from a different dance field. Like one is from hip hop, another contemporary, another ballet, and this one is an actor. It's just really physical, and we were integrating those their own language into this to make it, a little bit more playful, but. What was really hard is that those bags never move the way you intend to. They most of the time move in a way that you would never expect. So it makes it really hard to also build a choreography more stable around this. But we did it. When we presented it on stage, it was the first and only time that nobody dropped a bag on the ground, which I was really happy because it was filmed. So we could say it's possible. But we never did it again because everybody in the dance field think that it's not dance, theater think it's not theater, and blah, 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 and everybody's saying, it's like, we don't want it. It's like, okay. And it's hard also to do that show because we need to train as a sport. Like it would need, basic training every week to keep it fresh, because if you lose it just for 2 months, it's super hard to. So that's one example. We can switch picture.
It was always 6 back?
6 back? No, there's more actually. This is near the end, there's 8. Okay. Yeah, so at some point they're like, they have two of them. So I told them not to juggle because I don't want them to be like, it's too easy. So they had to, I was just completing more and more just so they would be super exhausted at the end and see like, how far can we go? That's the second project I did last year, still in creation actually. It's called Études. It doesn't matter for the theater, it's the name, we don't care. It's in French in a way. I built this project around one text. So it's, I wrote it actually kind of like coding, so it's repeating the same sentence over and over, and then it switches, but like the end of the sentence is the beginning of the new sentence, and I keep writing like this. So doing this for like, I don't know, 12 or 15 pages, it gives an hour-long show. But I'm superimposing on this physical partitions that are performative. I always work in the performative way because for me, stuff that is too fixed is boring. Like I said, I'm autistic, so I need stuff that challenge me constantly, even if it puts me like in really hard situation on stage. So I could say that this part, the game was to be able to say the text, which is more like, sometimes it can feel like poetry or order or stuff like this, more in the imperative, the time verb imperative in French, and actually trying to build a universe on stage from scratch. which is ironic because the picture I'm showing is like everything but from scratch because I don't build this on stage, but everything else is. So I could say that that's another approach. And the last one, the last picture, because I can speak for 5 hours, I say if I don't, keep a timing, so I'm trying to. This is called I'm Very Sorry. That's the most technology show I have ever done in my life, which is just a video projector. But it's at some point we tried something. It was the point was to start from the work of Rafael Rosendahl, if some people know it. He's a Brazilian and Netherlands mixed artist. I think he lives in Netherlands now, and he does a lot of amazing work. I strongly suggest everybody to just go take a look at his work because he writes poetry, but he does a lot of technology work, and I cannot just follow up with his work because he's producing a lot. And I started from his projection. And we actually, what we can see there is that I just moved a little bit. Before it was just like the basic projection flat on the wall, and then I just, at some point, I don't know for what reason, maybe I just kicked the video projector and then just a little bit shifted. And then we cannot see it that much there, but the part that is bleeding on the other side of the wall is actually really long, just because of that small tilt. So if we would do it here, it would be almost to that man sitting there who's taking pictures of us since the beginning. So so it creates kind of, when you watch it like front, it gives the impression that it's a house actually. And I was like, wow, that's a good idea. Maybe I would say it's a nice accident. So we started from this, and then I added one person next to the stage dressed the same way, who was saying poetry that I wrote, micro poems, about a lot of things, but mostly like, depression or hating life, all that thing that brings joy. And there was another person who's dancing there with, again, a partition that is not fixed, but more like, okay, at this point when you see, it was actually a dialogue between what's happening there, which is a lot of feedback loop. Rosendahl in this kind of work where he works with the feedback loop. So yeah, I would say that it also kind of looked like a game at this point because from the audience side, people were sitting in a V, but it's only for 15 people. I most of the time do for small audiences. I think it keeps it more intimate. And people were getting, coffee, biscuit, cookies, stuff like that, more because it gives kind of a middle afternoon nap feeling, that kind of show. So again, this was really hard it was really funny to do and really simple, but it's also really hard to tour just because, again, like, is it theater, dance, performance? No, it's not technology, blah, 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 blah. So I would say that most of the time my work is built in some kind of canvas. And the one show what we're doing right now, which is going to be presented in January in Montreal, is an in-between of using text from fascism, like, all those great guys that we don't even want to talk about, but I'm still using these works, and superimposing with the physical partition of summer camps game. So around this, we build a really long show with 10 performers to see how from like a group of people that don't know themselves, we can build the fertile ground to build totalitarian ideologies, like through competitions, through small tensions that adds up and then creates the kind of the entity of the enemy always in the other person.
Where you will be presented in Montreal?
Oh, it's in Montreal, and it's never going to tour because we're like 16 people on this.
Where?
Oh, it's not in a theater actually, because again, it took like 7 years to get the funding and the place to find the show, to do the show. It's going to be in a Cité des Hospitalières. It's an old convent. If you came to Montreal, it's a new place. I mean, it existed for like around 150 years, but for the past 3 years, some organism like artistic and communitary organism have been involved in this place that is in transition, and they have 2 places to present stuff, which are kind of unofficial, but we're still using them, even if the city didn't want to do us to do that. But I mean, they invited artists, so what would they expect? So there's the chapel, which is magnificent, like a huge chapel with a dome. That sometimes people are presenting shows there. That we present also as that I do as a curator with other projects, and a bigger room, which is called the salle de communauté, community room, which is really big and squared, but at the same time, there's like almost no. It was never built, as a theater. So we have some technique, we have a floor ground and everything, and we're going to do that. So they're kind of site specific because it's around that setting that we're doing the premise.
I will be in November in Montreal.
Oh, maybe you can come
Yes,
see rehearsals.
Maybe I can come to see it.
Yeah,
I
we're
will
going to be in full
around,
rehearsal.
11 till 17 or something.
Oh,
like
for
that.
Sinar.
Eh?
For Sinar?
For Sinar.
Yeah. Well, we're going to be. I'm not
Okay.
presenting anything, but we're going to be rehearsing at that time.
Super.
So, yeah.
So I will write you.
Yeah, totally. So that's, this. This is the more I could find in my projects, like that integrates the notion of games, but I'm really interested into game design, so that's why it's...
Marc is quite different because, yes, Marc created games. I am a really fan of him, but I think you could be better than me talking about your...
Describing them, because you are like a game designer yourself,
Yeah,
so
but
we share many
I'm just
interests.
creating my prototype. I'm not just... But you created el candidato, and also 3 weeks ago, you has been collaborating with Milton, Lim, and Patrick, doing a new version of
Culture Capital.
Culture Capital. So, go you.
Yeah, thank you, Marta, and thank you, Thomas, also for saying so many things. Sorry for my English, because it's not as good as Thomas's. Si no, passo o no? No, bueno.
Castellà i català i anglès.
Tot barrejat. Yeah, so I don't know exactly if I don't want to describe so much, because I think we kind of hold too much information in our little heads, human heads, but maybe just like getting 3 ideas from things I did, or from things I didn't actually like do in the sense of finishing them, but that I'm constantly working and reworking and thinking of. So maybe one first idea I would connect to this performance that I developed some years ago, which was called el candidato or candidata, or the candidate, which for me it was not an experience of game design, because it's a board game basically, but it was more related to the practice of forking, as when you work on code and you fork a code, meaning you take something that was already written and you basically edit it to make it work differently. So it's kind of a collaborative way of hacking some previous idea. And here what I did was that it all started with a discovery, because this board game that I worked with already existed. It was actually poorly documented, but I fell in love with the history of this game, which is a variation of chess that was allegedly invented in the 68 in Paris during the riots. Some people claimed it was invented by students of Michel Foucault, and there is some documentation that suggests so, other that obviously say that's a lie, or that just it's a legend. But Guy Debord knew the game and played the game, so it's a thing. And I actually fell in love with the rules, with how you play the rules. The idea behind this game is that you play in a group of, it's 4 people playing it in a chess-like board. And you get the idea when I tell you that all the figures move and exactly like the chess queen, and all of them are able to kill. So it's basically, it's crazy, it's insane, it's all about murder, and the topic of the game is a political campaign. So the characters of the game are political candidates, journalists, militants. There is also like a killer, a professional killer, and then there is also like the hearse, so the guy who picks up the bodies, no? Obviously, who takes the best part always. And that was this, I really like this idea of having a representation of a political conflict through the rules of a game, which was insane and which came from a moment of political turmoil. No? And coming also from performing arts, but also like not finding venues and theater so compelling, what I wanted to do here is basically offer to the audience the experience of playing this game, of reinterpreting this game. So the audience is learning how to play, and for me this was the most important part of it, that 8 people, because I play in groups of 8, so 8 strangers to each other, they have to sit, they have to learn something which is difficult, because it's not like, I mean, it's chess advanced level in a way, so they have to learn something difficult, they have to collaborate, but they also have to kill each other, and there is a political background all the time, because the game points or hints at political references. So therefore, me, I was very interested in how playing a game and learning how to play a game, learning how to negotiate levels of power inside, like in the same group, can actually be the true performance of politics. So it's not about how the game represents, but how people embody those dynamics, no? And for me, it's also very important to notice how people, for instance, when you start playing and you feel super insecure and shy, and the other one is feeling super confident and wants to tell everybody how to play, so that's kind of developing into a very toxic masculinity sometimes in the tables. So I really love to see how this is negotiated by the group, no? Or how like people will adapt to that, or will help someone who is kind of feeling lost. And then what usually happens is that the person who felt lost at the beginning is the one who is finishing the game and winning, no? So that's very beautiful also, because it just happens like this. Potser podem posar el vídeo, potser podem amb el volum fluixet i així. So yeah, I kind of forgot, but these are some images. So the work I was, sound was also important. So the work that we did was taking this game and developing like the performative frame around it, and also like this kind of redesigning it as a life experience which integrated different levels of reaction, like of technological reaction, like with the sound of the movements, with video projections on the board that map some movements. I introduce some rules that change the game, always like looking for how to transform the dynamics. So this was from a performance we did in Germany. Yeah, does it have? It's usually 1 hour and a half. So it's usually like 40 minutes to describe all because I'm also like telling all this story of the game in details, because I love to tell it. And then like telling the rules and demoing it and like learning how to play, and then it takes usually like 40 to 45 minutes to complete a round. It depends on the group, but usually it's like that. And yeah, so
There is any party politic who wants to buy the game?
I don't think so.
Campaign?
I don't think so.
You don't no?
No. In the last,
Would it be a good idea or no?
it could be a good idea. In the last performance, there was like a guy from Coop who was like a militant from Coop, and he, because at the beginning you get a card, and that's the candidate you are supposed to represent. No, you get something like this. So he got Aliança Catalana, and which is like the very leftist guy who has to represent a very like right-wing thing, and he felt so ashamed all the time. So there you also like witness sometimes how people want to like kill themselves because they don't like the party they're supposed to embody, and others who kind of play it and really want like to be bad and and hurt the others. So this was one idea, and then maybe the other, like just like also to open things. And the other idea that I'm interested in when thinking of games is the connection between playing and working. So it's a connection between games and labor, which is also like, I felt it very tied to the topic of consent, because for me, like how we develop like consensual relationships, I think it's very big. But for instance, like in also in the last years, I've been researching and working with other artists on the topic of how, especially in video games, how when you play a video game, you are actually working for a company, and you are kind of like a part-time employed by Candy Crush or or Instagram, which is also like a form of game. They are all playing now, I know, or maybe they are working. So this ambiguity between we are playing, we are working, we are like having free time, or we are kind of basically busy occupying ourselves in some repetitive task, which is not so different from the one you would perform at a factory. So this is also something that's really in my mind when thinking of games and playing.
I have a friend that
Salud.
Salud.
his job is to be a taster of video games. And it's amazing because he spends 8 hours on a day testing video games. It's at the beginning for him was so funny because he likes to play, so he thought, oh, they pay me. But you know, you must taste everything, so sometimes it's a bullshit video game.
Yeah. And it's not just like, oh, I'm playing to have fun. It's like I'm playing to search for bugs, for everything. And so you're like much more playing on something that you would normally do. So you need to be really dedicated.
We open to you if someone wants to do a question or curiosity.
An insult.
Wants to play with Marc. Hey?
Max.
Yeah.
So I wish, desitjo, anhelo, espero, that in an edition of Eufònic, it will be El Candidat with us, and it will be a part of games with us, and we will be playing and gaming all the time. So Vicent Fibla, take a note. Thank you, and we go to the second round.